So if you're excited or curious about the idea of the justification of educating students with disabilities within the Catholic school settings, there's three resources that I would drive you to. The first is a series of lectures given by a man called Jean Vanier. Vanier was the founder of what is now an international movement of religious communities for people with disabilities. The movement is called L'Arche. There's several L'Arche homes in the Kansas City area as well as the rest of the country and around the world. And Vanier has written a lot, and all of his works are great to access. But there's one publication called From Brokenness to Community. It's about 50 pages long. It's available on Amazon in a bound softback book form for about $7. From Brokenness to Community are two lectures that he gives at Harvard's Divinity School in the 1980s. And I think they're really worth considering. Even if you're not specifically interested in disability, I think this is a piece that everyone can benefit from in some way. I discovered it from students working on a project, and it was something that I purchased for everybody that I knew that Christmas. So that's a really good thing to look at. The other work that I would drive you to is by Henry Nauman. He was a priest who began working within L'Arche communities, and the book that I really recommend from him is called The Return of the Prodigal Son. I have students read that all the time, and they say that it's one of the most impactful things that they've read in their academic career. So that's one to check out. And then the third is a letter from the U.S. Council of Bishops to the Catholic communities across the country that was published in 1976. Its aim was to make the Catholic communities aware of this rising movement where people with disabilities weren't put into institutions, and they were being returned to or remaining within a local community, and what we as Catholics and our parishes and our dioceses needed to do to include people with disabilities. I think one of the most important points of this work is that inclusion is not just creating a ramp so a wheelchair user can make it into Mass, or a special place for someone to sit. It's not, that invitation is not just access to services, but it's participation in services. I learned as a young person in this diocese that when we engage within our Catholic communities, we use our time, our talent, and our treasure. And to be a Catholic is to be responsible to those things within our community. And so simply granting access to someone isn't bringing them into the fold as a full member of the community. And the bishops outlined this in 1976 in a way that was really ahead of anything else that was being written. So those are three resources that if you've become curious about these ideas or these are passions that you want to explore more deeply, I think are great places to start.